Hello, everybody. My name is Stratnos, and today we're taking a look at the Frostfire Mage hero talents. Still got a messed up tooth. If you hear that, or if this is your first video since I've had that, yeah, sound a little different. Sorry about that. Should be fixed next week. Well, should be at least mostly fixed next week. But yeah, okay. So Frostfire Mage. This is surprisingly for Frost and Fire mages, which this is the biggest freebie of which two specs this hero tree goes for. And up at the top here, we have Frostfire Mastery. Your damaging fire spells grant 1 stack of Fire Mastery, and Frost spells generate 1 stack of Frost Mastery. Fire Mastery increases your haste by 1%. Frost Mastery increases your mastery by 1%. Each of them stack up to 8 times, but adding stacks does not refresh the duration. So this is a 12-second buff. It stacks up to 8 times, and probably you're going to be averaging, you're probably looking as like a fire mage at, an average of like 4 or 5% haste value out of this thing, and maybe 1 or 2% frost value of mastery, like mastery increase, and vice versa for frost compared to fire, where you're mostly going to be casting spells of that school. But of course, there are things that interact with this further in the tree. First off, we have a choice node here between Imbued Warding and Meltdown. Imbued Warding says that if you're fire, Blazing Barrier also gives you 25% of a ice barrier, and that also affects your mass barrier, and the reverse for frost, right? Ice barrier is going to give you 25% of a blazing barrier as well. Not a big deal. I mean, for PvE content, the differences between the barriers with the like slows and the damage on hit, not really a big deal. Mostly just a bigger barrier. It would be a little bit more relevant if it also gave you the arcane one, because that one has like debuff duration or something reduction on you, or magic damage taken reduction or something like that, which would be notable effect to gain as well. But frost and fire not really super relevant for PvE. The other option here is Meltdown. Meltdown says ice block and ice cold. You're allowed to move slowly during ice block, and it increases your movement speed over time. Now, ice cold has been the default pick for mages ever since that got added. I don't want to say default, but the more common than the full ice block, unless you need the immunity for something. Because, a 70% DR or whatever ice cold is just enough, and you still get to do stuff during it. Presumably, what it would mean is if you pick ice block, your movement speed is going to be like 20% increasing to 60%. And if you're just ice cold, your movement speed is going to be 100% increasing up to like 140% or something over time, right? So you're still going to get some value out of this part if you're playing ice cold, but mostly ice block is the one that's really enhanced by this, right? Being able to move a little bit during it is definitely value. That's a really nice thing. It's not the biggest thing, right? You still can't cast during it or anything like that. And often if you're in tremendous danger during an ice block in PvE content, you can get life gripped or rescued before your ice block ends, and that can, accomplish the same thing as this. The other thing that this gives you is ice block and ice cold triggering a blast wave when they end, which the fact that this triggers when they end, I wonder if you're going to ever be like canceling your ice block or your ice cold to trigger this in a pinch. I'm also a little bit worried. Sometimes this is going to be annoying, right? Sometimes you're just not going to want that. Either way, I think the default here is probably just going to be Imbued Warding. Just giving you 25% more barrier is a lot of value, and it seems like this one's going to be a little bit harder to get good value out of. In the middle here, we have Frostfire Bolt, which replaces either Frostbolt or Fireball, which notably, right, that's going to generate a stack of both Frost Mastery and Fire Mastery, and, both Fireball and Frostbolt are filler spells for both specs that you cast quite a lot. It launches a bolt of Frostfire at the enemy, dealing Frostfire damage, slowing movement speed, and causing additional Frostfire damage over 8 seconds, right? The classic Frostfire Bolt effects there of both Frostbolt and Fireball. Then we have Elemental Affinity, which if you're fire gives you 10% cooldown reduction of frost spells, and if you're frost gives you 30% cooldown reduction of fire spells. Now, what are the notable abilities of the other school? Well, there's Ice Block that you're getting huge value out. You're getting some value. Ice Block or Ice Cold, you're reducing if you're fire. That's nice. If you're frost, you're reducing stuff like Blast Wave, Dragon's Breath. If you're fire, you're reducing Ice Nova. The fact that it's 10% here versus 30% is probably a nod to the fact that Ice Block is among the things getting reduced there. The other option here is Flame and Frost. Fire says that Cauterize resets the cooldown of your Frost spells with a base cooldown shorter than 4 minutes when it activates. And Frost says Cold Snap additionally resets the cooldown of your Fire spells. So both of these giving you this kind of, basically this extra Cold Snap effect that you can get. And of course, Cold Snap then applying to your Fire spells as well. I'm not sure which fire spells that's going to be massive for. I guess, again, something like Dragon's Breath would maybe be the big one there, or maybe something else further down the tree that we haven't seen yet. Over here, we have Isothermic Core, which basically makes Comet Storm and Meteor call down each other at either 100% effectiveness. If you're hard casting Comet Storm, you get an 100% effective Meteor. And if you're hard casting Meteor, you're getting a 150% effective Comet Storm on your target's location. So mostly just a damage amp to those abilities. Although, again, that will also probably give you stacks of both types of Frostfire Mastery now on those abilities. I assume it would only be one stack from Comet Storm, because Comet Storm actually has multiple damage instances, but I assume you'd still only get the one stack from it. That's something that would potentially really amp up the power of this effect, though, especially for fire, if it gave you multiple stacks of Frost Mastery there. Then we have another choice note in the middle here that says, casting Frost or Fire spells increases the damage of your next Frostfire bolt by 6%, stacking up to 5 times, or Thermal Conditioning, which reduces the cast time of Frostfire bolt by 10%. So, increasing the damage of your Frostfire bolt, for some parts of Mage's history, Frostbolt or Fireball has actually been a reasonable amount of your damage, but I think generally, most of the time, the Mage build would rather just get to the good stuff more often and spend less time casting it, so I think Thermal Conditioning is probably going to be the main one here, but it depends on the builds of Frost and Fire at any given time. Frostfire Infusion here says your Frost and Fire spells have a chance to trigger an additional bolt of Frostfire, which does generate Frostfire Mastery when activated. So, all right, some extra procs there that are going to give you, again, 1% Hasten Mastery for, I don't want to say 12 seconds, right? Because often it's going to be adding you a stack that does not refresh the duration. So maybe an average of like 8 or 6 seconds of those, but still decent amount of little extra value every time that procs. Excess Frost here says, reaching maximum stacks of Frost Mastery, if you're fire, will cause your next Phoenix Flames to also cast an Ice Nova at 200% effectiveness. When you consume that, the cooldown of Meteor is reduced by 5 seconds, and again, that Meteor is going to be calling down Comet Storms. So if you can ever actually reach maximum stacks of Frost Mastery, that's going to be huge. Maybe that does mean that the Comet Storms are going to be giving you multiple stacks, because otherwise, I guess you only need to cast like 8 Frostfire bolts in 12 seconds, which maybe Fire will do sometimes. The other option here is Frost, which also gives you the same, the trigger condition of reaching max stacks of Frost Mastery, which presumably will be easier to do for Frost than for Fire. That one causes your next flurry to also cast Ice Nova at 200% effectiveness. Again, Ice Nova is getting cast for free either way. And when you consume it, the cooldown of Comet Storm is reduced by 5 seconds. So, yeah, I mean, this is nice. Again, the free cast of Ice Nova will give you an extra stack of Frost Mastery, although I guess it'll give you an extra stack of Frost Mastery if you're not careful. That will be when you're already at max stacks and it's not going to increase the duration. So maybe you're going to want to wait until your stacks fall off, and then you can press this and you can kind of jumpstart your new stack of Frost Mastery. That sounds pretty fun, actually. The middle stat effect here is Frostfire Empowerment, which says your Frost and Fire spells have a chance to activate Frostfire Empowerment, causing your next Frostfire bolt to always crit, explode for 80% of its damage nearby enemies, and be instant cast. Love it. That's going to feel great. And then we have Excess Fire. This one is basically the mirror of Excess Frost, which says, reaching maximum stacks of Fire Mastery causes your next Fire Blast or Ice Lance, depending on which spec you are, to give you a 150% effectiveness Living Bomb. When that Living Bomb explodes, you either get 10 seconds off of Phoenix Flames or a Brain Freeze as well. So again, that is nice. The way that Living Bomb works, I wonder if it'll give you the stack on application or on damage as well, in which case you could maybe do some cool timing stuff here. And again, this is going to be a nice thing where, you might want to game this around a little bit so that you can start your next, Fire Mastery build up with a couple extra stacks right at the beginning. And then finally, we have Flash Freeze Burn, which says, Frostfire Empowerment grants you maximum benefit of Frostfire Mastery and refreshes its duration. Wow, that is huge here. Frostfire Empowerment. So whenever you proc this, you're going to go up to 8% haste and mastery for 12 seconds. That's huge. Activating Combustion or Icy Veins grants you Frostfire Empowerment, which will also then grant you Flash Freeze Burn. I wonder if that'll also grant you Excess Fire and Excess Frost. Maybe if you weren't already at max stacks, it will. In which case, I mean, you're going to be kind of going off here. This seems sick. This seems so fun. For both Frost and Fire, this just seems insanely cool. So I feel like this is the sickest hero talent tree yet. If anything, maybe it's going to be a little bit too, like, much for a lot of players. Like, just so much stuff to be thinking about and to be juggling if you're playing with all these different effects. But for me, that sounds so fun and cool. That seems really exciting. So I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you are a mage, a fire or frost mage, looking at this, and how your initial reaction to this is. Let me know what you think. There will be videos for the other hero talent trees as well coming out soon. There should be the priest one already up by this point, depending on what time I'm able to get all of these uploaded. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.